All right. So yesterday we started to talk about cosine law, right? And I'm just reviewing when are you using the cosine law, because soon you're going to have to start to decide sine law versus cosine law. And it's only these two cases where you can use the cosine law. And I gave you the formulas, the variations of them. So if you missed that lesson, I encourage you to go and get it. And so we just covered examples where you had the SAS, right? Side, angle, side. Today we're going to talk about when you have all three sides given. And really the only thing left to do is to find an angle, right? And in fact, if you wanted to solve this triangle, you solve all angles. So if you go to page 278, that example there deals with, I'll put at the top here, solving for angles. This is on page 278, okay? Solving for angles. This particular example is asking me to solve for angle, for size of angle Q, right? They're asking for angle, right? Angle Q. Two things that give it away is that symbol and that it's a capital letter. And I'm going to change this a little bit, okay? They're asking you for Q. If they ask specifically, go ahead and find Q. But we're going to say, we're going to change this, calculate the size of the largest angle. Find the largest angle first, okay? If I tell you find angle Q, go for it. But if it doesn't, if it just says solve this triangle, you would have to find the largest angle first. And how do you know the largest angle? It would be across the longest side, right? So this, according to that number, this is the largest angle right here. Longest side. Largest angle, right? Like these will be across like this. So let's solve for angle P. So cosine of P, and I'll use a different color here because cosine of P is equal to, and then you put your line down here, okay? You're gonna have to add two sides, and at the very end, you're gonna have to subtract, okay? You're gonna have to subtract. So you're gonna add two things and subtract at the end. This is the one I want you to write down first. Which one are you gonna subtract? You're gonna subtract side P, right? So we're gonna go minus P like this, and this will be Q and R because we have PQR, right? Q and R like that. So you add Q and R, but you make sure that you subtract P from it. All of them need to be squared. Don't forget that. They all need to be squared. Side lengths are always squared in cosine law, and angle always glued up with cosine. And in the denominator, you go 2 times Q times R. So these are all multiplied like that. Okay, and now we substitute. Cosine of P is equal to, where is Q again? It's here. This is lowercase q, and this is lowercase r here. Just it's always across the angles, right? So Q is 16.9 squared plus R, which is 21.6 squared, minus 31.2 squared. over 2, and here I like to use brackets when things are multiplying. Q is 16.9, R is 21.6. So notice that these two, the first two, they are back down here multiplying, okay? Note of that. This side that's across, P is not coming back again. It's just appearing once. Okay, so I'm going to highlight that because, right, this only appears once. That's the important because we know that this side is across the angle we are looking for. Okay, so that's the important thing. All right, this looks very intimidating at first, but we're going to do one line at a time. So we're going to figure out what the top gives us. So grab your calculator, right, and you go 16.9 squared plus 21.6 squared minus 31.2 squared. I can do that all in one shot. And you get negative 221.27. That is normal. Okay? Don't be scared of a negative. It will happen from time to time. Negative 221.27. You write down everything, the whole thing. Okay? And so it's when you do the work, you want to be able to do this with your calculator. And then you go 2 times 16.9 times 21.6. Right, so we multiply the denominator here. And you get 730.08. 730.08. Okay. Now we're going to divide these two. And we're going to put that decimal right next to it. Because technically, if you turn this into a decimal, it's the same thing. So watch what I'm going to do. Negative 221.27 divided by 730.08. And you get, don't drop the negative. It's negative 0.3031. We use 4 decimals, just like we did with sine law, right? At least 4 decimals. So 3031, this rounds to. Like that. Okay, so I'm going to highlight the negative. And so cosine of P is this. Forget the fraction now, we know that it's this as a decimal. So your last step is to say angle P is going to be cosine inverse of the decimal I just found. Okay? And then you're going to get angle P on the side here. So let's go ahead. I'm going to keep this on my screen here. I'm just going to go shift cosine to call the inverse. You might have to press second, whatever that button is for you. And it's 107.64. 107.64 degrees. And I will highlight the negative. And you get that. So this is P. This is not Q. This is that big largest angle here, which you just found. Okay. Now we still have to find Q. Okay. Now find Q. Right, angle Q. So we would say cosine of Q would be I don't care what comes up front, but I know I have to go minus Q at the end. And the other one is P and R, right? P plus R, order doesn't matter. Square all of them. And then it's 2 times P times R, right? Like that. That's what this would look like now, Q and Q, right? So cosine of Q, we plug in the values. Down the road, I'm not going to ask you to do the formula anymore. Like to write out the letters, you can just go ahead and plug in right away. P is 31.2 squared. R is 21.6 squared. And Q is 16.9 squared. Over 2 times 31.2 times 21.6. So highlight this, right? This side is across Q. And then we figure out what that is. Let's type in the top part, 31.2 squared plus 21.6 squared minus 16.9 squared. And that gives us 1,154.39 over. It's not negative, right? It's positive. And then 2 times 31.2 times 21.6. That's 1347.84. And here I'm going to run out of runway a little bit, but I'm going to divide them. And I get 0.8565 because that's 7 bumps that to a 5. Okay, so do it right next to it, and then the next line is Q is cosine inverse of 0.8565. And let's take the inverse. You don't have to have brackets around it. 31.08 degrees. Okay, so now that you have P and Q, you can easily find angle R by just using the sum of 180 property, right? A triangle always adds up to 180. So you could actually find that. I'm not going to do that. It's going to get too crowded here. So what have you noticed? I want you to notice this. If there's a negative in front of your decimal, your angle is going to be obtuse. It's going to be bigger than 90. If that decimal you get is positive, it's going to be less than 90. Your angle is going to be less than 90. You can be guaranteed that, right? So here you have them side by side. I just wanted you to see that if they don't specify which angle they want you to solve, first, always find the largest, right? If they tell you find Q, then you could have gone straight to this and be done with it. I just wanted you to see both side by side here. So largest first if it's not specified. Let's see what I have on the back side here. Yeah. So on the back side here, we're going to fill in some notes. Okay, I left this open on purpose. So page 279. a triangle. Oh, drop the A on 279. It's just triangle fun has the following dimensions. Because math is fun, you know? Solve the triangle. Provide diagram. So let's say I say that angle F is 42, angle N is 36 degrees, and side U is 37.42 inches. Let's say they give you this. So no diagram provided. Okay, Aaron, you're there. Okay. Jello, you're late. Okay, so this is a triangle where no diagram is provided, so you have to, it's the knowledge of sketching that comes in handy here. So you know that your triangle has corners called FUN, right? Fun. So what you do is just draw a triangle that looks like this. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. Just don't make it look like a right triangle. Just draw one like this, okay? You start in any corner, any particular corner. It's up to you. If you want to start here, you say this one is angle F, angle U, angle N, okay? So just go, you can go clockwise, counterclockwise, it doesn't matter. You plug in the information you're given. This is 42 degrees. N is 36, so the angles go in between the sides, okay? They tell you what that opening measures, okay? So 42, 36. U, side U is 37.42. Where would that be? This would be a cross angle U, right? So it's this one here. It's a side length here. So you put down 37.42 inches. And that's your starting point. Now you can recognize what kind of a triangle this is. What would you have to use to solve this one? If I asked you to solve the triangle, you need to start and only one of them will work. Remember, we have sine law, cosine law right now. All right, Aaron? Aaron is saying we have to use sine law. Right, you are correct. But at first, you may not have a pair, right? You're looking at, I don't have a pair. But is this a side, side, side? Definitely not. Is this a side angle side? Right? It's definitely not. Doesn't matter where you go. You don't have a side, an angle, and a side. So this is a hidden sine law. You can easily find angle U because you have two angles. Okay? So hidden pair. Angle U is 180 minus 42 minus 36. Angle U is, if you subtract all of that, you get 102 degrees So that's part of solving, right? Finding whatever is left. So we now know that this is 102 degrees. I'll use a different color because it wasn't given. Now we have a pair. Okay, so I'll go from here to here. Now have a pair. We use sine law. So I'm switching it up, right? So I use that pair, sine of 102 over 37.42 is equal to, which one do you want to solve first? It's up to you. If you want to use that angle, you're going to solve for this side. So I'm going to go sine of 42. If this is angle F, then this is lowercase f. And if this is angle N, then this is lowercase n. That's the side, right? So if I'm taking 42, I'm solving for side F. And F, right, you cross multiply and divide. So it's 3742 times sine of 42 over sine of 102. So I'm mixing it up on purpose because I want you to see both in action at this point. So you multiply, then you divide. It's 25.60, right? Because the 9 bumps to a 10, which bumps the 5 up to a 6. So 2560. And what are we in? We're in inches. So that's, I'm one step closer. Okay. Now that you have side F figured out here, you technically in this corner here, you have a SAS, right? SAS. If you wanted to use cosine law now, you can go ahead and do that. I'm just going to use sine law again. So I'm going to use sine of 102 over 37.42. And then I'm going to use that, the 36. Remember, it's an angle. It needs to be glued to sine. Okay. And I'm now solving for side n because 36 is across n. And it's the same thing, right? Cross multiply and divide. And when you do this and divide, you get 22.49 inches. So 1, 2, 3, right? Triangle solved. Okay. What I'm going to do now I'm going to ask you to try question 4. 4 to 5. Okay. Do 4 to 5 now. Okay. I want you to solve for these here, for 4a and b. I want you to solve the triangle. Okay. Solve each triangle. I want you to practice quite a bit with these. That means they're asking for z, but I really want you to solve for all 3 angles here. If you want to start with z, go for it. And again, if they tell you solve for this one, go for it. Like right away solve for that one. But if they don't tell you where to start, you start with the largest angle. Okay? So go for it. So basically 4a and b for now, it's the main purpose, right? Like solving all angles And you notice that these are all side, right? So I apologize if the sign law now mixed it up for you and you're struggling, but we're gonna continue to practice, right? So both of these are side, so based on the previous example I just did, okay? So go for it. I'll hand out these and let's see how we do, okay? So check, make sure you follow. If you ever get a math error on your calculator, go back. You probably plugged in the wrong number. And it's usually when I'll show you where, if you don't get a 0 point something at the end, especially with the triple S cases, it's going to give you an error. So you got to go back and you got to check what you're doing, okay? So I'm solving for, they're asking me for Z first. So I would say I need to start like this. Cosine of Z is equal to, no matter what goes, I know something goes here plus something else minus, that's the one I want you to focus on. Take the side that's across angle Z, which is 5.1, and write it down first. Make sure you square it, right? And then you just grab the other two. It doesn't matter in which order, it really doesn't. Right? These are the other two, but this is the most important one. And then in the denominator, you just plug the two that are up front here. You just copy them down, but now they're multiplying. Okay? So this would be your first. This can be done in 3 lines, right? Cosine of Z. Now I'm going to figure out what this is. Right? So I'm going to go 12.3 squared plus 8.2 squared minus 5.1 squared. That's 192.52. The denominator is 201.72. It's too long of a line there. I divide them, use all decimals, okay, because it'll never be 9544 if you round it to 4 decimals. And so Z is cosine inverse of 9544. Z is 17.37 degrees. So you need to figure out how your calculator is able to get you that. That is the important thing here. I'm not done yet. I'm also now, I asked you to solve each triangle. So you solve for Z. You need to solve for one other one, okay, before you can apply the sum of 180 rule. So you can go this or X. I'm going to solve for X, angle X here, okay. Let's see if I can make this work here. Cosine of X is going to be, I don't know, something minus the side that's across from it. And then I copy the other two and square them, right? Make sure they are added. And then it's 2 times 5.1 times 8.2, like that. Copy these guys down here. I'll figure out what that is right next to it. And that's negative 58.04. We don't like negatives, right? But that's okay. Your calculator doesn't mind, right? 8364. And then I'll just do this line next. I know this is kind of against like how I have been doing this. It doesn't matter as long as it's consistent. And that's negative 0.6939. So angle X would be cosine inverse of 0.6939. Make sure you take cosine. Some folks mix up sine later. You're mixing them up. Make sure it's cosine law that you're using. Use cosine inverse. 133.94. 133.94. I'll just do this. I'll answer it here. Angle X is 133.94 degrees. We always round to 2 decimals, angles, anything. xz is there. And it's really crowded, I know. So I don't know, I'm going to do this here. Angle y, that's the one I need to find, is 180 minus angle x minus angle z. I'm just going to do that. Probably shouldn't have made you solve the whole thing because it's pretty crowded. And I know that if you went a different route, if you solve for y using cosine law, you might have a slightly different answer, but that's okay. We're not going to deduct marks for that. It's just what happens with some of the rounding that happens along the way. Okay. Question B, they're asking for angle T. So it's going to be across 116. I'm going to try to be a bit more conservative with my time, with my space here. I'm going to go minus 116 squared here, no decimals. So the other two sides are here added. And then 2 times 88 times 165, right? Copy these down here. And then my next line is figuring out what that is. I think at this point, I'm going to look at my key here, 21,513. And this is 29,040. If you divide those, you get 0.7408. Does it round to a 9 or an 8? I'm not sure. I used all decimals. It's 8. Okay. So angle T is going to be cosine inverse of 0.7408. And that gives 42.20 degrees. I'm so used to 2 decimals that I put 20, even though it's 0.2, that's acceptable. It's not money. Okay. So we solve for angle T. Next, I'm going to solve for the largest angle, which is R. So I'm going to start my formula like this. No matter what I do, I'm going to take the side that's across R, square it, and then I'm going to take the other two. Order doesn't matter. The 165 should not show up anymore in the denominator, okay? It only shows up, the side across shows up once, just here, and nowhere else. Cosine of R is, and watch this is a negative 6025, negative, right? So we're expecting an obtuse angle. And I'll make a note of that here. Will be an obtuse angle. Okay, will be an obtuse angle. You can be guaranteed cosine of R. I'm going to get that as a negative 0.2951. So R is cosine inverse of negative 0.2951. Please don't drop the negative. Promise yourself to never drop the negative, right? I'm going to keep it with me the whole time. And you get 107.16 degrees. Last but not least, we need S, right? Angle S is 180 minus T minus R. I don't have that on my key, so I'm going to go for 180. That's 30.64 degrees. Could you have used sine law after finding T? Because then you have a pair? Yes, you could have used sine law. There is a problem with sine law. And this is the problem. If I ask you to solve the triangle, I will always ask you to solve for the largest angle first, because sine law does not see it. Sine law will not give you an obtuse angle. So you got to be careful there. But if I tell you which one to solve, just go for it. You don't have to worry about it. All right. I think I'm gonna just give you the answer, or I'll leave it for tomorrow, maybe that question that comes on the next page with that house, the shed. Yeah. I'm gonna do that one tomorrow. We'll do that one tomorrow. In the meantime, you should have a package with a bunch of handouts. And it looks like this. Can you go look for it? It should be in the Trig handout package. Can you just confirm that you have it? You have it? Yeah, I see a few people not. So just do the first page. That's your homework. Okay, so I'll write this down here. Homework, first page, cosine law worksheet. And it goes through both cases, the SAS and the SSS, right? So it's just a good way to practice to make sure you understand that before I AC you on that. I thought I had the package too. Let me see. Oh yeah, here it is. I'll give you the answers to the first page, so you can write them down. Okay. I'll put them on the edge here. This should be 33.79 inches for the first one. The second one is 8.22 meters. The third one here is 113.13 degrees. And the last one is 30.75 degrees. So there are your answers so that you actually know you're on the right track. Okay. All righty. Stop that there.